got a chair. She'll need a music stand also. She'll need a music stand also. Good morning, everybody. So way back in the day, we used to sing our way into the room. We're going to try that again today. So if you happen to have grabbed a hymnal on your way in, it's number 361. The words will be up on the screens. And let's sing together. Here we go. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come. What comes next? Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Oh, that was nice.
Thank you, Julia. It's one of my favorite songs. It's lovely to have that. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's cloudy because of the smoke, so let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and my pronouns are she and her. And we're so glad to have you spending time with our congregation today, whether you're here in one of our chairs or at your place in what we would consider a virtual chair, though it may be some other vehicle. We are really glad that you are here. And we want to say welcome. For those of you who are visiting with us today, we are very glad that you are here. It is wonderful to expand our circle, and we're very happy that you're here. You can go into the fellowship hall after the service, and at the table for visitors, you can sign up to receive information, let us know how to be in touch with you, let us know what you would like to know about us. So please do take a moment and do that. And we are in the middle of our Connecting You and You and You and UU and MDUUC. There's just a lot of U's in the new title, so I've got to get used to all of them. And we did the first part of it, 101, yesterday, which was wonderful. We'll be having 102 coming up, so we look forward to talking with you and letting you know a little bit about who we are and what we do. We have a lot of ways to connect and with things that are important, and I want to call your attention to one thing that's very special. At the back of the sanctuary, there are these little postcards, and they say, The Secret Life of the Paramecium, which is actually a musical debut of a new piece that Brett Carson is out on a fellowship this month working on, and it's being performed next weekend, so check it out. Let's show our support for Brett, and we had more information in the Friday email about how you can support Brett in this venture. We are fortunate to have both Brett and Julie as wonderful pianists among us. I want to mention that our air quality today, because of the smoke, is very poor. It is over 100. And so those of you, we're going to have some outdoor things afterward. You might want to consider keeping your mask on for once when you're outside, because it's probably good not to be breathing in too much of that. If you are outside and you would like to have a different space with more room, we do have a monitor and TV set up in the Borton Hall. We won't be continuing that every week, but because of the air quality today, our tech staff went to the trouble to set that up. So if you'd feel better inside because of the air quality today, please feel free to do that. And if you're at home on your porch, just saying. The big thing I want to say is, what is today? Does anyone know? What is today? Is it our religious education tea after service? Yes. And are we going to sign up and go check it out and help out our new Director of Religious Education, Marina McGregor? Yes, we are. Thank you. That will be wonderful. There'll be lots of good things to eat. We hope you will be there. We'll have our fellowship hour in our Borton Hall. No food inside, but food is outside. So please make use of all of our spaces that we're opening back up right now. Please contact me or one of the ministry team if a listening ear would be helpful. We know that this continues to be a challenging time for many, and asking is a gift you give the community. Welcome to this beloved congregation.
Good morning. I have to tell you, after seeing how a couple of our folks have dressed for the high tea, I feel terribly underdressed. But please join us. Please, please, please join us. So I am Linda Russell, a member of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Welcome to our service. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming faith community, and we begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other and to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. So this community exists because of the time, talent, and treasure that our members and friends share. We're so glad to have you with us, either here or virtually, and we hope you are keeping safe. A few announcements. While we are no longer checking vaccination status, our expectation is that those who are inside are vaccinated. Today, there will be an opportunity to get a paper copy of the survey that we're doing to help shape this year together. We will also have someone available to show you how to complete this survey online. And thank you for taking the time to let us know your thoughts. We will have a congregational forum the last Sunday of this month. You will hear from us, your board, about our priorities for this year, and we will discuss the adoption of the 8th principle. And mark your calendar for our amazing annual services auction, our biggest fundraiser annually, which is always the first Saturday in November. This year, that will be November 5th. Welcome. It's good to be together.
Okay, so we are celebrating today both the things that we have in common, which bring us together, and also the ways that we're different. So we're going to exchange greetings, and if you have a particular unique way that you could exchange greetings, we're going to encourage you to try that out today. We'll see how this goes. Let's exchange greetings.
We invite you to join in singing the words of the invocation. You'll find them in the order of service that you'll find online on the mduc.org website or on the screen in front of you. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. One more time. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
I'm Michelle Paquette, and my pronouns are she and her. Today's chalice lighting is a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is like an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty.
Do you want to invite our children up? Do you want to invite the children up? Mike's right there. Marina, why don't you invite the children up?
Okay, I forgot. I have to invite the kids to come forward. I'd now like to invite those who are young and young at heart to come sit up front with us.
Here they come. Yay! Yay. we go. Everyone's finding a seat. Oh, Gebel.
Gebel?
Shh, that's a bad word in Turkey.
Bad word.
Why are you saying a bad word?
Because it's Sunday, and here we are.
Yes, isn't that a good thing?
The summer, I liked the summer. It was quieter. We had a turkey reunion. It was just all us turkeys. We went up on the top of the sanctuary. We left our mark on the top of the sanctuary. We ate great grubs. Grubs. And we left our mark. Did I mention that?
I don't think I want to know.
Besides, I'd rather spend my Sunday mornings on TurkeyNet.
TurkeyNet?
Oh,
TurkeyNet?
Yeah, TurkeyNet. You think that people are the only ones living virtually these days?
I never thought about it.
You Gebel people are so Gebel.
No reason to be foul-mouthed. Get it?
Promo.
Who is that?
I don't know. Someone new?
New to you.
It's not a bird, I'm pretty sure. Do you think it's a human?
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No. Oh, sorry.
No. You should introduce yourself. Meeting new creatures is good.
I don't know. I'm so out of practice meeting new creatures that it's just so hard. So why should I even try?
You can never have too many friends, and sometimes it's good to have different friends.
That one sure is different.
Me? Different? What about you?
Gebel, gebel. Oh, don't worry. It's a compliment in parrot. Sort of like, I like your feathers like that. Do you have to use a lot of product?
I'm fine with my circles just the way they are. On the TurkeyNet, we can play games and we don't have to talk to new weird creatures. What are you anyway?
Who, me? Can't you tell?
Let me see. Are you something called what is it? A wizard?
I think you mean a lizard.
Whatever. I really couldn't care less. I would really rather just be in my own nest, preening, looking for ticks.
Whoa, now that does sound exciting.
Ticks never talk back. They never talk back. And they're never rude.
TikTok. Oh, wait. That's a different conversation.
Okay. You lizard, you are very shiny and you're very different from me.
True. You are not very shiny. Don't you think shiny is nice?
I'm gonna stay out of this one. Shiny is nice, and not shiny is also nice.
What games do you play? I play Lizcraft and Pokemon.
Lizcraft?
It's species specific. And actually, I'm a chameleon. More on that later.
Anyway, I had to come today because Falcon makes me. Falcon is the chief bird and says that I have to get better values.
Values.
I say I get lots of values on TBS. Falcon says that's why I have to come here every Sunday.
TBS?
Turkey Broadcasting System. Do you know that we have a Pokemon Go gym right here on campus?
Really?
Yeah, it's over near the minister's office. Quite scary looking creature. Probably scares her right out of her stole at night. I can show you later if you like. Very spiny, no feathers. Well, it looks more like you than me, honestly.
Sounds very pretty.
Pretty scary, Gebel.
They do have good birdseed here, though, and human snacks. I'm not sure what things like you eat.
Ticks.
Really?
Really gross.
Maybe being friends wouldn't be so bad after all.
Told you so.
Yes, I may not be able to be a wizard, but I am good at disguises, and I can make some things disappear.
Disappear. Ticks. Still gross.
Takes all kinds. That's why it's good to have lots of friends. Some you invite over for dinner, and some, well, let's just say I'd rather eat my own cookies in this case.
Come on, Parrot. Let's show everyone the outside.
Gabble. Don't worry, in lizard, that means good idea, or something like that. And now I'd like to invite you all to sing the children and youth out to their classes.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your hearts know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go
Good morning. My name is Ron Annan. I wear a lot of hats. One of them is now seminarian, and my pronouns are he and him. Thank you. How do we talk about faith? Keep the faith. Don't take that on faith. I've lost my faith in him. She had a faith healing. They're bargaining in bad faith. Your faith will save you. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could move mountains. So, what do all these phrases tell us about faith? Of course, in a religious context, faith is usually synonymous with a set of standard and prescribed beliefs, a creed that you have to accept to be a member of a religious community, like a church or a parish or a synagogue. Growing up Catholic, I remember my mother helping me learn and understand the faith. I still have a copy of her book, My Catholic Faith, at home. So when I tell people unfamiliar with UUism that we are a non-creedal faith community, I usually get received with crunched eyebrows. You mean you believe in not believing in anything? Of course, at that point, I usually launch into my elevator speech of our 7 principles, our UU non-negotiables, the things we hold sacred, the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, the interconnected web of life, the right of conscious and search for truth and meaning. Calms them down a bit. Physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson is fond of differentiating faith from science, and that faith is that which one considers is true without evidence, while science is acquiring knowledge based on factual analysis. But I found his scope of faith to be too narrow, because faith for me includes not only how the world works, but also how the world should be. Faith is a statement about which values we hold dear. And science doesn't do as well with that. My own personal faith journey has been a long one. From a dyed-in-the-wool Catholic growing up faith, I wanted to forego marriage and family life. I wanted to be a priest to spread the faith. Then there was that long period of my young adulthood, all of my 20s and a few of my 30s, filled with doubt, confusion, agnosticism, until finally arriving at middle age. And today, I can say I'm a religious natural humanist. The keystone of my faith now is less cemented in supernatural beliefs and gods and spirits and healing powers, though I'm open, but more in the belief in the possibilities that we human beings have to create a just, kind, and loving world community. I have faith in you. It took a lot of dismantling and a lot of rebuilding. My faith journey's been intellectually frustrating, but also stimulating, emotionally draining, but also exciting. And it's been a lot of hard work. But I'm happy with the result. I'm happy to be able to say, I am a person of faith, and I am willing to defend that faith, my beliefs about the world, the universe, our place in it, and to celebrate the power that we have to build deep and lasting connections with each other in order to live as a united and loving, diverse human family. What about you? Where has your faith journey led you? How hard has it been to arrive where you're at today? What was your motivation? Who helped you along the way? And how comfortable are you with your own personal faith stance? let us ponder this morning collectively our faith journeys and the role of faith in our lives. Come, let us worship together.
We invite you to rise in body or spirit. Let's join in singing our opening hymn. Number 1030 in the teal book, if you picked up one of those on your way in, the words will be on your screen. Siamba, siahamban kukan yen kwen kos. 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 Siahamba, oh, siahamban kukan yen kwen kos. Siahamba, oh, siahamban kukan yen kwen kos. We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are dancing in the light of God. We are dancing in the light of God. We are dancing in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. We are dancing. Oh, we are dancing in the light of God. We are dancing. Oh, we are dancing in the light of God. We are singing. Oh, we are singing in the light of God. We are singing light of God. We are singing in the light of God. We are singing in the light of God. We are singing. Oh, we are singing in the light of God. We are singing. Oh, we are singing in the light of God. Siahamba, siahamba kukan yen kwen kos. 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 Siahamba. Oh, siahamba kukan yen kwen kos. Siahamba. Oh, siahamba kukan yen kwen kos.
Now's the time in our service where we come together to hold those joys or sorrows that are too big for any one of us to hold alone. I'm asking Reverend Leslie, on behalf of Julie Yip, to light a candle of joy. This is in celebration last Sunday of her brother and sister's birthday. They were born on the same day, 8 years apart. She writes, "Quite remarkable of my mother, for I also was born on my father's birthday. I asked her how she did it, and she was bewildered and lighthearted and responded, I don't know." Reverend Leslie, our caring committee would like to light several candles for celebration of some joyful birthdays for the month of September. So the first is Ellen Dorfer, who will be turning 90 on September 20th. Another candle for Joy Hicks, who turned 94 on September 7th. And a final birthday joy candle for Gwen Langoche, who will turn 93 on September 30th. Reverend Leslie is lighting a candle for Ted Rogers, who had a brief stay in the hospital but is now back in Windsor, Rosewood, in Pleasant Hill. Reverend Leslie lights another candle to remind us that an informal memorial gathering for Edie Hedgecock will be held here next Sunday at 1. Edie's son, Eric, hopes the members of this community will attend. And Reverend Leslie is lighting another candle for Donald Sturkey, who will be returning to Kaiser Oakland this week to work out another complication in his continued recovery. Tom Taylor is lighting a candle in remembrance of the lives lost in 9/11. And now we light two final candles, the first signifying all those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts, and a second candle to remind us that we are all the makers and bringers of joy and justice in this one imperfect but healing world.
As we enter into our time of meditation, we invite you to join in singing our meditation song, Jekale Aldash. We will sing in Czech to begin with, then we'll sing a verse in English, and it being a partner song, those two go together, and you can choose whichever one you feel most comfortable with. Where there is faith, there is love. Where there is love, there is peace. Where there is peace, there is blessing. Where there is blessing, there is love. Where there is God, there is no need. Oh, where there is faith, there is love. Where there is love, there is peace. Where there is peace, there is blessing. Where there is blessing, there is God. Where there is God, there is no need.
I invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation and the deep ask that is prayer. Today, I invite you to think about what you consider to be that larger frame, that more expansive vision, that enlarged spirit, whatever name you give for it. I ask you to be in its presence in this time. I invite you to allow into the room whatever it is that is large enough to hold your joy, large enough to hold your idealism, large enough to hold that spirit of calm that anchors you in uncertain times. And I also invite you to invite into this room whatever is large enough to hold your fear, whatever is large enough to hold your worry, whatever comforts you in times of discomfort and dysregulation. Whatever is beside you when you look into that void of hopelessness. Today, as we gather together in the many ways that we gather in these times, let us remember that together we create this place, this largeness, this size, that is large enough to hold not only all of these things individually, but together in tension, the fear and the hope, the worry and the calm, the idealism and the acceptance of imperfection, the discomfort and the need for joy, the need to care for ourselves and the need to care for the other. Let us remember that we are the keepers of this place, bringing our own individual gifts and visions to create it, and also holding collectively our vision of what it can be. May we, in this week in which we have seen frightening temperatures in our world, when we have despaired for the people among us who are without shelter, when we have celebrated the joys of connection and love, let us hold all of this together, knowing in this post-predictable, post-certain world, this place is just a breath away. Let us know that we have the power to hold all this largesse. So may it be.
It's always an adventure. One, two, three.
Solid ground till my faith brings me back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep Music that stirs the soul. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Mark David Watanabe. My pronouns are he and him, and I currently serve on your board of trustees. Now, as seminarian Ron so aptly reminded us, faith can be a tricky theological concept, especially for Unitarian Universalists. But I would imagine that each of us could identify a time in our lives when we felt that faith was restored in some way. I recall when I was once a humble parking lot attendant at Venice Beach, California, as a summer job. It was a great gig, just having to stand in a booth and collect parking fees. But I would sometimes be working alone at 2 a.m. in a neighborhood that at that time was quite sketchy. Fortunately, the folks on the street took a liking to me and kept me company. They would always check in to see if I was okay and had my back if things got a little dicey. One of the regulars was Annie, an unhoused woman who was clearly down on her luck and was known to sleep in unlocked cars in the area. One summer early on, Annie sheepishly approached me and asked if I could spare some money so she could get a bite to eat that evening. I reached into my wallet and handed her a $10 bill, happy to help. She quickly walked off to the nearest hamburger stand, and I continued to greet drivers arriving at the beach. The months passed quickly, and one day Annie came up to my booth holding a paper sack in her hands, and she wanted to give it to me. It was heavy, and when I looked into it, I discovered that it was full of loose change. "Count it," she said, and I did. Much to my surprise, there was exactly $10 in pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, and I suddenly realized that Annie had spent a considerable amount of time and energy panhandling so she could pay me back even though it was never an expectation on my part. It was such a moving gesture, and I could say in that moment a bit of faith was restored for me, especially my faith in the universal spirit of generosity that both transcends one's own station in life and enhances the blessings of gratitude when one does right by another. And so, if you find that this particular spiritual community has done right by you, I ask that you remember the power that Annie wielded in restoring the faith, that together we can honor the love and integrity that is at the heart of the very best in the human enterprise. I now invite the ushers in the sanctuary to come forward. Your offerings, either in person or online, will now be gratefully received. Please join with me now in reciting our dedication of the offering. To the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
Things are better.
Some of us saw people we loved.
We went to parties, we went out to eat, some of us traveled.
Kids started classes in schools.
Some of us reconnected with activities that give us joy.
We could go more places unmasked.
Because people were going unmasked, many vulnerable people had fewer places to go.
It was hot.
The Supreme Court took away the rights of women.
It was hot.
People we knew, lots of people we knew, some of us got COVID.
Courts took away more rights, rights that had just been earned by queer folk.
Did we mention it was hot?
Living in the Bay Area got more expensive.
We still don't understand the long-term effects of COVID.
We had to remember the madness of an almost successful coup.
People we loved died because they still have limited access to health care.
The heat made us afraid. We believed in climate change before, still now.
Our democracy seems more feeble than we ever thought it was.
And we don't like being afraid. Some of us never admit to being afraid.
Things are better, and still we aren't sure. Who can we trust? What can we trust? Is faith bad? Should we just not think about it?
Faithfulness is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Some of you may recognize this as a quote from the Christian scriptures, specifically Hebrews 11:1. I'll give you a minute to turn to that. Maybe someone at home. But I remember as a young person in my grandparents' church learning this very scripture verse, committing it to memory. Memorizing scriptures was a large part of my Southern Baptist upbringing. Back then, my understanding of these words was that my deeply held hope in my future was held in place by an always present, all-powerful deity whose outstretched hand controlled all aspects of my world, present and future, especially when life made it very difficult to imagine those things not yet seen. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Life was so much easier back then, grounded in a kind of faithfulness that permeated my being without question and without deep reflection. Resting in the hope that all things I had yet to see or experience were held by a great divine was a comfort beyond comfort. This intense faithfulness allowed me to meet my difficulties head on, always believing that things would get better no matter how dire the straits. My life was held by a God that would keep me safe from all that life threw at me. There was no need to worry. There was no need to fear. As I grew, I realized that there were aspects of myself that caused a great disconnection between me and this level of faithfulness. My attraction to the same sex was something that I could no longer ignore as I reached adolescence. The closet that had served to protect me from others for so long had become isolating and lonely and was causing me to loathe myself. The constant desire to go to sleep queer and wake up straight was exhausting. It was a recurring nightly ritual that I performed with all the faithfulness in my heart that I could muster. Even with this level of faithful devotion, I would still wake up in the same queer body in which I fell asleep. The faithfulness to an unknown entity and its apparent inability to transform me into something less crooked and more straight seemed to declare at best the existence of an imperfect God, and at worst, no God at all. Where then is faith? This crisis of self and faith really ended up forcing me to understand that my faithfulness, as I had defined it, was simply not enough. I was going to be queer forever, and my ideas of God and faith would need to be bigger, at least, than the box of my childhood Christianity. In some ways, the realization that my notions of the divine were too small continued to nudge me out of the closet and invited me to rethink my notions of faithfulness. Around this time, I began to see examples of people like me finding each other and caring for one another. One fond memory I have was well into the AIDS epidemic around 1987. I remember waking up one morning to see on the news a group of clearly homosexuals. That's how we say it in Texas, homosexuals. They were protesting right outside the seat of the finance of our nation, the New York Stock Exchange. I was amazed to see a level of camaraderie and sense of community and passion and love present there on my television. And I remember hoping that my miserable high school journey would end soon so that I might find a new community, one similar to the protesters I was watching. While I was only 16 at the time, I saw profound love in those who participated in this televised, what ended up being the first AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, or ACT UP, protest. Examples of people who loved themselves and each other beyond measure demonstrated to me a reason to cling to hope and believe in things unseen, at least in a new way. Not a faithfulness that required allegiance or ignorance of the present, but one rather that would require my full participation and, yes, some surrender of self to a greater thing, a greater team, a greater community. I now realize that this was a moment when my external faithfulness of old was beginning to transform into something more, perhaps an internal faith-filledness. While it took me many more years to inch my way out of the closet, fully loving myself is the way that I connect to that same love that I witnessed so many years ago on my TV screen. This very community is a living and breathing example of the embodiment of that kind of greater love. We hold each other in our times of great joy and sorrow. We honor our connection to each other and remain connected even in the middle of a global pandemic which threatened disconnection to all of us. We continue to act in ways that demonstrate care for the most vulnerable in our community through vaccination and mask wearing. These may seem small, but they are very meaningful tasks and examples that underscore our communal ability to provide me personally with faith-filledness. Now, I'm much older now than that 16-year-old self, and now these are the things that I hope for: connection, community, and care. I also know that these are the very things that are also not always seen or realized. I believe that we all have the capacity to embrace care for one another in ways that are transformational, but we have to lift those practices up and push ourselves often out of comfort and into an unknown space, having the faith-filledness that this community is moving me toward love helps me do that. Faith to me now is more than just a deeply held belief that all will be okay due to the intercession of a God who holds and molds it all. It's much more involved, really. Faith-filledness forces me to realize that I must become the very hands of whatever deity may or may not be present. Those things I hope for are my responsibility to embrace and co-create with others in this community. I have a refound new meaning in the words of my religious past. I can absolutely confirm for me now that faith-filledness is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen.
This week, as the temperatures climbed higher than some of our thermometers allowed, the dove, who is nesting on the little planter next to my bedroom door, continued to sit on her eggs. Every morning and every evening, I would make sure that the blue saucer that was just a few seconds away from her was filled with water. It was like a little ocean, a little oasis that she could use. I never saw her leave the nest in the entire week, as hot as it was. When the temperatures reached 115 that one day on our part of the world, I went out and looked at her. Her eyes were glazed and dull. I couldn't see that she was breathing. I was very reassured the next time I went out to see she was in a different position on the nest. I have to admit that as we came into this fall initially, I felt a little bit like my friend Turkey. I was glad to have just been immersed this summer in the simple comforts of seeing people that I love and doing practical things that I really needed to get done. It was good to have a time that felt a little bit more like summers used to feel before 2020. And I needed the self-care, which honestly I've realized I have a tendency to deny or to treat as if everything has to be a marathon and then at the end you get to have self-care. And I'm done with that, just so you know. That's one of those things we've had to come to in this world where it seems, and I'm not sure exactly why, everything is just a little bit harder than it used to be in some ways. Everything in this post-certainty era. We don't even know what to call it. We can't quite yet call it the post-COVID times, as my last 4 weeks have reminded me, as I've been touched by more COVID-caused actualities than I've experienced in the whole rest of this period. We are certainly post-certainty. We are certainly post what we knew before. The world we live in now is kind of post-predictable, too. It might seem more manageable if we just didn't care that much about those things beyond what's exactly in our reach, exactly in our scope. If we didn't care about anything beyond our own little realm, then maybe it might be a little easier to understand how to be in this particular unnameable time. I think at the heart of our faith is that tension between what the individual can do and what we can do together. We affirm both of them in our tradition, the needs of the individual and the needs of the community as well. And in this time, when there's so much subtle but persistent messaging that what we really need to do is just buy that thing that will help us feel better, it's important to have places to remind us of something else. I think that many people believe we should be living in a post-faithful world, and I don't believe that. Tracy Blackman, a prominent black preacher in the Protestant tradition, says this: "As often as I wonder what happened to the soul of our nation, I ask myself what has happened to the collective power of our church." She has a particular answer to that in her tradition, and it has to do with how faith works in the ways that she sees the world. Yet as I painted and swam, as I walked and cleaned, as I shared wonderful food with people I loved this summer, that question was as persistent as my smaller dog Ferdinand, who, when I am home, tries his best never to leave my side, never, no matter what room I'm in, no matter what I'm doing, he's always there. And that question was with me like that this summer. It's endearing until it's annoying. The question was as persistent as that dove on her nest last week. The world that we're living in, this somewhat unnameable world, this post-2020 #uncertainty world, that for some of us started to reveal itself in the middle of the last decade, has made us struggle to grasp for where we can make a difference, either as individuals or as people working together as people of faith. The refuges that we learned to forge for ourselves, especially in these last 2 years, the things we did to get through these last 2 years, have become, in some ways, shields from the world, and sometimes even addictions for some of us. Our democracy is endangered. Our very world is endangered by the realities of climate change, which nobody in this part of the world needs to be reminded of this particular week. I don't like feeling scared. I don't like feeling powerless. How many people out there do? How many of us get up every morning and say, I would love to feel scared and powerless, right? So in that way, it's easier just to stay behind our shields, behind our habits, behind the things that we found to get us through, and maybe hope in our own way that if we just ignore everything that's happening, it will just go away. Bernie Loomer was a theologian who lived and died at the end of the last century. Actually, he was a neighbor. He went to the UU Church of Berkeley in his last days. He wrote about what he called size, S-I-Z-E. He said, by size, I mean the stature of a person's soul, the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationship. I mean the volume of life that you can take into your being and still maintain your own integrity, your individuality, the intensity and variety of the outlook you can entertain in the unity of your being without feeling defensive and insecure. I mean the strength of how you feel in this world about what it is that we can do. The largeness, this largeness is what faith and communities anchored in it create, and we need more of it in the world, in this world, this post-certain, unnameable world, if we don't want this to be the world that is post-faithful. I think that this is a time when we all are going to need to decide how we are going to respond. Loomer said back in his day, which was now several decades away, that the universe was ever increasing in complexity, and he didn't have any idea what was coming. Frank Thomas, another preeminent black preacher, asked, who is it that you hope with? Who is it that you hope with? Think about that. I hope as you look around, some of the people that you hope with are sitting near you now or on a screen near you now. Having ministered during the pandemic, having preached to this sanctuary empty week after week, my heart will never cease being gladdened to look out and see your faces out there. It never will. It never will. Never will. And I hope that you feel the same way about being able to be present with one another and to look around in the ways that you can. That's a privilege, and I will not tarnish it with anything less than honesty. In this service, which traditionally we kick off our year for this congregational year, we have hard times ahead, my friends. Threats to our democracy are still very present. Threats to our neighbors, threats to our climate, they're all very real. And trying to look away is not going to be the solution for the long term. We need to take care of ourselves and take care of our world. We need to sing and cry and laugh and wonder together. We need to be with people that we can hope with, We need to live in a way that is faith-filled. We do not know that our efforts will make a difference, that's true, and yet we don't know that they won't. This is the kind of world we live in, a world in which we must have faith without certainty, as my colleague Paul Razor says, who, like that dove sitting on her eggs, hot minute after hot and boiling minute, not knowing what will come of that heat with those eggs. It is important for us to keep finding the resources, in addition to the resources to care for our own hearts, to care for the collective heart of this world of which we live. Sometimes it's just small acts, like today, just taking a small risk that might allow you to do something else in the future. Perhaps it's like today when I'm preaching my first sermon ever using my iPad. Thank you. I'm almost there. Reverend Jackie Lewis of Middle Church in New York City, one of the preeminent multicultural progressive congregations, which in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, saw their beloved sanctuary burn to the ground in a totally random fire, says our vision is the story or lens through which we see reality, our preferred future for which we enact it as we can. People who tell me, and I have a lot of you that do this, that our creature nature is just to protect ourselves at all costs, that's just our nature, we can't do anything to change it. People who tell me that, or say that we can't do anything because are to me as wrong as the people who say we can't do anything because there's some omnipotent power that will take care of it all for us, so we don't need to worry. In so many ways, both of those, to me, are just two different paths of fear. I choose to have that different lens, a different vision, that faith-filled one. And I said that to the dove last night as I walked by her. She was sitting on a slightly different position on her eggs as a slight breeze ruffled her feathers. And what will be born of our efforts? We really don't know. And yet we know that the journey matters, the commitments matter, the choices, every one of them matters. Whether we choose today to go out there and sign up to do some small thing that we can, or to reach out to someone, or to come to learn at our book read, whatever we choose to do, the small things that we do, those matter to all of us. Faith is the path we offer here, and I so look forward to walking together through this year. Why faith? Because I need it. I think you might need it. I know the world needs it. The world's children and youth and young adults so need it in small ways, commitment by commitment. May we, together, make it so.
We invite you to rise in body or spirit. Let's sing our closing song, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Words will be on your screen. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, when we hear our voices in each other's words, place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space. And the God of our hearts stirs within. And we feel the power of each other's faith. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
Now, hear the words as we extinguish our chalice, and remember that the flame goes out here but remains in our hearts as we enter the world. Things are better.
And they are also uncertain.
Maybe a faith without certainty can help.
Maybe a faith in each other is one that will persist.
Maybe just laughing and dancing and breaking bread together will help.
Maybe journeying together, the confusion will lessen.
Maybe we can help one another become more faith-filled people.
Oh, to all the forms of holy and sacred out there, we pray.
Please let us be the ones to make this so.